So I was watching this movie called Monster vs. Aliens, and I noticed that the lady got hit with a glowing rock, and I went to go look up what type of glowing rock this could be, and it's a radium rock or a uranium rock, and it's a highly radioactive rock that basically hit the lady, changed her DNA, and turned her back to a Titan. And so we all been talking about how, you know, the black Americans are actually sleeping Titans and how our DNA and frequency has been lowered. I think it's because we've been separated from our powers, which is like I said, everything that we need is on the periodic table of elements. We just been separated from certain minerals that could actually give us our power. Everybody knows that if some type of war was to go off and nuclear weapons was to be shot out throughout the world, that would actually activate our DNA as well. But they already have uranium rocks for sale. They have radium rocks for sale. We don't have to wait for nothing. We can purchase this stuff online right now, get that power right now, because what happens is the gamma radiation gives you your power, right? That's the radiation that's coming off the rock. The gamma radiation that the sun emits does not ever hit the surface, so you never get the chance to absorb this gamma radiation unless a solar flare happens, and that's rare. But the same thing that the sun emits as far as gamma radiation is given off of by these uranium rocks. Uranium and radium rocks give off the same gamma radiation as the sun, except your body's actually coming in physical contact with gamma radiation. And that's why I say that we can actually purchase these things now and put it to the test, because we already know, if you look it up, it says that melanin absorbs uranium, radioactive energy, and also absorbs radium. So if melanin absorbs all these different things and it conserves it as radioactive power, what then would happen to the human body? Because the plants grow twice as big when they got radium and uranium around it. What would happen to us if we were in a black UV light atmosphere with radium rocks in our hands, highly radioactive rocks? Wouldn't that change our DNA? Wouldn't that make us stronger or faster, just like it did the plants? Because melanin in the core feels the same, right? Man, y'all got to keep your eyes out. Y'all go purchase this, man. It's online for sale. Let's get it right now. Let's go ahead and get them powers and get supercharged.
So let's talk about radium, radiation, and the radiation converting and absorbing abilities of eumelanin. In my last video, we spoke of eumelanin being able to convert electricity, being able to generate and convert and absorb and produce electricity because of its crystalline structure. That was the last video, and in that video I briefly mentioned radium and radiation, and that in the next video, being this video, we would talk about radium and radiation. Because in my last video, we spoke about the powers that they give these black superheroes in Marvel and DC Comics and in all these superhero movies is actually based off of fact and actually based off of science, based off of what they've always known melanin has the capability to do. So not only does melanin have the ability to generate and absorb and convert and produce electric charges or electricity, it also has the ability to absorb and convert all forms of energy, different forms of radiation energy being included. So we've gone over melanin's ability to conduct and absorb electricity and produce electricity. So let's talk about melanin's ability to convert and absorb different sorts of radioactive energy. We've gone over electrical energy. Now we're going to talk about how melanin interacts with, or eumelanin specifically, interacts with radioactive energy, gamma rays, alpha rays, beta rays. And we're going to further drive this point home that all of these superpowers that they give these comic book characters, these black comic book characters, is based on fact and science. So for those that don't know, what is radium? Radium, or as it's represented on the periodic table, being associated with the atomic number 88, is a highly radioactive silvery white alkaline earth metal discovered, or supposedly was discovered, by Marie and Pierre Curie, known for its intense radioactivity, glowing properties, and toxicity, primarily decaying into radon gas and historically used in luminous paints and cancer treatment, though now heavily regulated due to health risks. Here we have again, what is radium? Radium is a radioactive substance found in nature. Radium is produced by the radioactive decay of uranium. The intensity of radiation from radioactive materials decreases over time. The time required for the intensity to decrease by 1/2 is referred to as the half-life. The half-life of radium is approximately 1600 years. How is radium used? Following its discovery over 100 years ago, radium has been used in numerous industrial and consumer applications. At the beginning of the 20th century, radium was a popular additive in consumer products such as toothpaste, hair creams, and even food items because of its supposed beneficial health properties. Now we're going to get into this. They say supposed beneficial health properties here, but what you're going to see is around the late 1800s, early 1900s, really between 1880 and 1920, you see a lot of products sort of pop up for the last time and then disappear for good. So that now you can't even find these products anymore in modern times. Radium being one of them, copper being one of them. The 1880s and 1920s was really the last time in history that these products were being used, and they were taken off of the market, and we'll get into this. They were taken off of the market by the Morgans and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the owners and creators of Big Pharma, because a lot of these products, they were used to keep people healthy, they were used for healing, they were used for health, they were used for medicine. And a lot of these products, like I said, radium, copper, etc., there were a lot more than those that were taken off of the market in the early 1900s, late 1800s. They were taken off of the market by those same owners and creators of Big Pharma because they did not make them the same amount of money or no money at all as does Big Pharma and pills and pharmaceuticals and pharmacies and all that. So it says at the beginning of the 20th century, radium was a popular additive in consumer products, such as toothpaste, hair creams, and even food items because of its supposed health benefits. Now, anything that doesn't make these elites money, they take off of the market, and radium is impossible to get your hands on to this day. But you can go in any store, any gas station, and get pills. That ties into Big Pharma and the trillions that it makes this world's elites. When they were found to have adverse health effects, such products soon became unpopular, and authorities in many countries prohibited them. Manufacturers used radium until the early 1970s in self-luminous paints for watches, aircraft switches, clocks, and industrial dials. Radium was used in numerous medical applications during the 20th century as well. It was used in sealed and unsealed sources for cancer therapy. Radium was fashioned into various sizes and types of sealed sources, many of which were called needles because of their shape. Radium needles and other forms were implanted into cancerous tumors to arrest the cancerous growth. So in summary, what is radium? Radium being where we get the word radiation. Radium is a highly radioactive silvery white alkaline earth metal supposedly discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie, known for its intense radioactivity, glowing properties, and toxicity, primarily decaying into radon gas and historically used in luminous paints and cancer treatments, though now heavily regulated due to health risks. So that is what radium is. We see on the periodic table it is represented by Ra, and we see the signature green glow of this compound, of this element, radiation. It's known for this green glow, which is why they would use it to paint numbers on clock dials, so on and so forth. So this is radium. This is what we're going to be talking about in this video. So to start to piece together the differences between people with no melanin or pheomelanin, I believe it's called, and those with eumelanin, which eumelanin being the pigment that makes your hair, skin, and eyes darker, is why black people are black people, essentially. Not all melanin is created equal. We're talking about eumelanin in this video. So we're going to see the difference between so-called black people and the so-called Caucasian through the story of the radium girls. Now, we've gone over what radium is. We know what radium is. It is a highly radioactive, supposedly toxic compound or element that used to be used a lot between the 1880s and 1920s. And we're going to piece together how clearly there is a difference between non-melanated individuals and eumelanated individuals based off of how each of those groups react to radium. So who are the radium girls, or who were the radium girls? The radium girls were female factory workers who contracted radiation poisoning from painting radium dials, watch dials, and hands with self-luminous paint. So this paint was made of radium. The incidents occurred at 3 factories in the United States, one in Orange, New Jersey, beginning around 1917, one in Ottawa, Illinois, beginning in the early 1920s, and one in Waterbury, Connecticut, also in the 1920s. After being told that the paint was harmless, the women in each facility ingested deadly amounts of radium after being instructed to point their brushes on their lips in order to give them a fine tip. Now, this probably goes without saying, all of these women working in this factory were Caucasian women. They were so-called white women. They are white. All of these women that contracted this radium poisoning or this radiation poisoning, they were all of Caucasian descent. There were no black women. There were no other women of any other ethnicity. They were all white. That's important to keep in mind as we talk about how radium or radiation affects melanin deficient individuals versus melanated individuals. The women were instructed to point their brushes in this way because using rags or water rinse caused them to use more time and material, as the paint was made from powdered radium, zinc sulfide, gum arabic, and water. The radium girls had lasting effects on the labor laws in the United States and Europe, following numerous lawsuits following death and illness from ingestion of radium. So a lot of these women, these Caucasian women, died from being exposed to radium and its radioactivity. Radiation exposure. USRC hired approximately 70 women to perform various tasks, including handling radium, while the owners and the scientists familiar with the effects of radium carefully avoided any exposure to it themselves. Chemists at the plant used lead screens, tongs, and masks. USRC had distributed literature to the medical community describing injurious effects of radium. Despite this knowledge, a number of similar deaths had occurred by 1925, including USRC's chief chemist, Dr. Edwin E. Lehman, and several female workers. The brushes would lose shape after a few strokes, so the USRC supervisors encouraged their workers to point the brushes with their lips or use their tongue to keep them sharp. So these women are orally ingesting radium, powdered radium paint. Because the true nature of radium had been kept from them, the radium girls also painted their nails, teeth, and faces for fun with the deadly paint produced at the factory. By 1927, more than 50 of the female factory workers had died from radium poisoning caused by the paint used. So let's look into the symptoms that these women had, because it's pretty graphic what this radium poisoning, this radiation exposure did to these women. So radiation girls' symptoms included severe dental problems like painful ulcers, rotting teeth, and disintegrating jaw bones, which went by the term radium jaw, alongside anemia, bone fractures, extreme fatigue, and eventually deadly cancers, all from ingesting radioactive paint while lip pointing brushes, leading to bone decay and radiation poisoning. The infamous symptom involving severe pain, bleeding gums, abscesses that wouldn't heal, and the jawbone becoming so brittle it would shatter or crumble, toothaches, loose teeth, and spontaneous tooth loss, spontaneous fractures, especially in hips and spines, as radium destroyed bone from the inside out, severe anemia, development of aggressive bone tumors. So this is all of the effects or symptoms that were caused to these Caucasian women, these radium girls, because of their exposure to radium or radiation. These are melanin deficient individuals. These are women who lack melanin. They don't have that protective layer of melanin in their cells, in their skin, in their hair, in their eyes. They're unprotected from this radiation. In fact, a lot of these women, their bones were so brittle that their bones would just break and shatter as they were going on about their day. Their hip would break. And these were young women. They were all in their 20s. Some of them were only 18, 19 years old. Their bones would just shatter and break. Their bones would break just under their own weight because of how the radium had weakened their bones. It's also said that some of these women had ingested so much radium that they actually started to glow like the numbers on the dials of these clocks that they would paint with this radium to make it glow, that they actually started to acquire a greenish glow to their skin because they had consumed so much of this radium. So this is the effect that it had on non-melanated or melanin deficient individuals, because as we've gone over, we know that melanin is an absorber and converter of all types of energy. So we've gone over the symptoms, we've gone over what radium is and how radium affected these Caucasian radium girls, how the radiation affected them. So before we move on to melanin and how melanin reacts to radiation, the same radiation that caused these Caucasian radium girls, the same radiation that caused their bones to crumble and their jaws to fall off. I want you to watch this video that I found on TikTok. I got it from I Am Damian Michaels on TikTok. I love his page. Have learned so much from him. And we're going to see an older black woman, keyword black woman, speak about using radium in her younger years as medicine, and how the black people, when she was young, used radium as medicine and to heal, and used it when they were sick to get themselves back to health and get themselves back to strength. So we already read over how radium and radium exposure affected these all Caucasian radium girls. But let's see what this melanated black woman has to say about how people in her time used to use radium for the exact opposite of what it did to these radium girls.
As you watch this video, you're going to hear her because her daughter is questioning her about how they used to heal back in the day. And this is fucking gold. And she's going to say radium. And I'm going to play it over and over again so you can hear it. Look at her jaw. It's still attached, radium girls. It's still attached.
They took it off there. All of it off there.
The market.
Yeah. Radium. Took. Oh, I know the name of it. They took it off there. All of it off there.
The market.
Yeah. Radium.
So, as you can see in that video, that woman said that back in her day, they would use radium as medicine to heal, to fight off illness and ailments. This is a black woman saying this. This is a melanated individual saying this. And look at her. She's at least 90 years old. And her jaw is still intact, like that brother said. So what's the difference? Why did radium and radiation affect the Caucasian radium girls one way, but heal all the black people? Heal our ailments, heal our sicknesses, make us stronger. Why is that? What's the difference? We're all the same, right? We're all humans, right? That's false. Let's talk about melanin, melanin specifically, and how it can convert and absorb all forms of energy, radioactive energy being included. We already read over what happened to the radium girls. The teeth falling out, bones breaking, hips breaking. It gave them cancer. Their jaws were falling off. Their jawbones were just disintegrating from their face. That's what happened to the radium girls. But we see our elder, this elderly black woman, speaking about in her time, the black folks would use radium, the same stuff that caused the white people's bones to disintegrate, that the black people would use radium as medicine. There is a cellular difference between us and them, down to the cells, down to the molecules that make us up. We're not all human, we're not all created equal, and we're not all the same. You see, she's totally fine. She's lived to be 90 plus years old. All her bones are intact. She still got her jaw. So what's the difference? The difference is that melanin that protected her and caused radium and radiation and radioactive energy to energize her and heal her and make her stronger, when it made non-melanated individuals or melanin deficient individuals, it killed them from the inside out. So let's talk about melanin's radiation shielding properties. Why did it not affect this black woman, but it rotted these Caucasian women from the inside out? Let's talk about it. Melanin's radiation shielding properties. Melanin found in various organisms, including humans, is remarkably effective at absorbing X-rays, UV light, and other forms of radiation. This makes it a promising candidate for protecting astronauts from the harsh radiation environment of space. Y'all hear what they're saying here? This is stuff that they've known about us for such a long time, for decades. They go behind the curtain and they study us like lab rats because they can't fathom what we are. And then they tell us we're nothing, we're all the same, and melanin is just a skin color, and we came from Africa and we have no history. And meanwhile, they go behind the curtain and they're so flabbergasted at what God made us that they're doing these studies and they're coming back with this information about what melanin is and can do. This is why that elderly black woman is still alive, still has all her bones intact, still has her jaw, and radium or radiation dissolved the Caucasian radium girls from the inside out. Because melanin is a radiation shielding compound. It protects you from radiation, and they know this. Melanin found in various organisms, including humans, is remarkably effective at absorbing X-rays. Is remarkably effective at absorbing X-rays, UV light, and other forms of radiation. Is remarkably effective at absorbing X-rays, UV light, and other forms of radiation. That is why that woman, our elder, that so-called black woman, that's why she's unaffected by the radium. That's why she's unaffected by the radiation. That's why it was used to heal her and strengthen her and power her up. And it dissolves the Caucasian from the inside out. This is why. This makes melanin a promising candidate for protecting astronauts from the harsh radiation environment of space. Melanin has radiation shielding properties. It's not just a skin color. It's remarkably effective at absorbing X-rays, UV light, and other forms of radiation. This makes it a promising candidate for protecting astronauts from the harsh radiation environment of space. This is why radiation, it didn't affect us. But you see what it did to them. Right in front of you is a perfect example, a real life example of melanin doing its thing and doing its job. Our elder, she just said that back in the day, the black people would use radium to heal. They use it as medicine, but it's dissolving the bones of the Caucasian. Why? Because they don't have the melanin to shield them from the radiation and convert it into energy.
The reason why Chernobyl has a whole wildlife sanctuary now is because of this fungi that produces large quantities of melanin.
Was able to live and survive in that radiated environment.
Yes, ate all that radiation, turned it into nutrients for the environment, and now the environment thrives. And there's animals living there.
And it's so deep because when people have talked about melanin for the years, and you read the science journals, BBC articles, they say independent biologists have said that melanin can fight disease. So melanin helps out to keep foreign agents out. And they say possibly, all that stuff. And the word disease comes up because they're relating to black people. So they never talk about the enhancements of what it can really do. So the disease state, it's not a matter of prevent just disease, it's just a matter of keeping the...
So what sort of rays or radiation does radium emit exactly? Let's read. Radium emits alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma rays. Alpha particles are helium nuclei that are easily stopped by the skin but dangerous if ingested or inhaled. Beta particles are high-energy electrons that can penetrate the skin and cause burns, and gamma rays are high-energy photons that can pass completely through the body and require dense materials like lead to block them, or melanin to block them. So radium emits alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. Radium emits alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. Let's see how melanin reacts to alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. Yes, melanin can process alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. Listen to what they're saying. We just read that radium emits alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. And now we're reading that melanin can process alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. They not like us. They are not like us. Melanin is not just a skin color or hair color. Melanin can process alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. It's known for its ability to absorb all types of electromagnetic radiation, including ionizing radiation like gamma rays, and even some forms of radiation beyond the electromagnetic spectrum. This sounds a lot like a superhero to me. You would read this and think you're reading a comic book, or going over the powers that some fictional superhero has. Because all these DC and Marvel comic heroes, they're based off of black people. They're based off of the abilities of melanin. Melanin can process alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. It's known for its ability to absorb all types of electromagnetic radiation. Radiation doesn't affect black people. It powers us up. It does the exact opposite. The so-called black man and black woman are the polar opposite end of the spectrum of the so-called Caucasian man and woman. Because as we're reading, we absorb and process all forms of electromagnetic radiation. And this radiation dissolves them like dust from the inside out. So melanin is known for its ability to absorb all types of electromagnetic radiation, including ionizing radiation like gamma rays and even some forms of radiation beyond the electromagnetic spectrum. This is why radium and radiation have no effect on the so-called black man and woman. It's that melanin that can process alpha, beta, and gamma radiation and absorb all types of electromagnetic radiation, some being beyond the electromagnetic spectrum. This is why the black people, like our elder said, was using radium to heal. And at the same time, and at the same point in history, radium was causing the radium girls to have cancer and their jawbones to fall off and their bones to dissolve in the dust in their bodies. This is the power of melanin. Melanin's response to alpha radiation. Melanin, the pigment responsible for skin, hair, and eye color, demonstrates fascinating and potentially adaptive responses to alpha radiation, particularly in certain organisms like fungi. Absorption and shielding. Melanin's complex structure allows it to absorb and dissipate the energy from various forms of electromagnetic radiation, including alpha particles. This is science. It's not hearsay. It's not comic book fantasy. This is scientifically proven aspects and abilities of the compound of eumelanin. Radiation does not affect eumelanated individuals. It cannot penetrate eumelanin. This hatred for brown skin, it's got nothing to do with the color. It's got everything to do with what makes your skin brown. That melanin. Melanin's complex structure allows it to absorb and dissipate the energy from various forms of electromagnetic radiation, including alpha particles. We already read that radium emits alpha, beta, and gamma radiation. The same alpha, beta, and gamma radiation that killed all those radium girls. We're reading now that melanin can absorb and dissipate the energy from all those forms of radiation. So put it this way, if all of those radium girls in the 1920s, 19-teens were black women, it wouldn't have affected them at all. They would have been totally fine. That's based off of science. That's science. If all of those radium girls were black women, the radium would not have affected them at all. They would have been totally fine because their eumelanin would have absorbed and dissipated the energy from the radiation.
Okay, so this is uranium. It's an abundant mineral found in the Grand Canyon. And these particles you're seeing shooting off of the rock are charged ionized particles. And it's inside a nitrogen cloud chamber, and that's why you're able to see the particles, right? Gamma radiation is what gives melanin its power, right? Everybody knows that. But why are we not doing it? You see, gamma radiation, beta particles, alpha particles are charged ionized particles that give melanin the power it needs to become active again, to become nuclear again. So it actually heals the body. You'll never age. You know what I'm saying? So these are the type of things that they're trying to keep us from, because it actually kills all bacteria. It replenishes all cells because it charges melanin. The charged ionized particles charge your whole melanin structure and basically replenishes it. And this is why they're trying to keep us away from things like this and scare us away, talking about it's going to hurt us. But it's not true. It gives us our power back. This is called uranium, and it's sold online. I'm going to put up the article.
Melanin processing gamma radiation. Gamma radiation interacts with melanin to alter its electrical properties and process that can lead to electric current production and allows melanin to function as a radio protector by absorbing and dissipating energy. This is science. It's just science. This is scientifically proven facts about eumelanin, about so-called black people, about what's in our skin, what really is in our skin. It's not just a skin color. So this is calling back to the electricity conducting abilities of melanin as well. Gamma radiation interacts with melanin to alter its electronic properties. So melanin has electronic properties, a process that can lead to electric current production. Why do they always give all the black superheroes lightning powers? Storm, Black Lightning, Static Shock. Why do they always give all the black characters electricity powers? This is why. Because like I said, they go behind the curtain and they study us, and this is what they come back with. And then they hide the truth in plain sight. Gamma radiation interacts with melanin to alter its electronic properties. So melanin has electronic properties. A process that can lead to electric current production and allows melanin to function as a radio protector by absorbing and dissipating energy. So melanin is absorbing and dissipating this gamma radiation, this gamma energy. The same gamma radiation that radium emits. Melanin is absorbing and dissipating that energy. This interaction involves gamma rays exciting electrons in the melanin polymer, which can generate an electric current and potentially chemical energy, a process hypothesized to be similar to photosynthesis and is being researched for applications like radiation protection in electronics and biological systems. They're behind the curtain studying us 24/7, and they know all these things about melanin. Because as we just read, it's being researched for applications like radiation protection in electronics and biological systems. So they're trying to figure out how they can use melanin to apply to certain things and certain aspects, certain projects that they're working on for radiation protection. in electronics and biological systems. Gamma radiation interacts with melanin to alter its electronic properties. Melanin, that stuff in your skin that makes it brown. A process that can lead to electric current production and allow melanin to function as a radio protector by absorbing and dissipating energy. This is how melanin interacts with gamma radiation. As we're going over all these different types of radiation and energy, we're really seeing that it is true that melanin can absorb and convert all forms of energy. We've gone over alpha and gamma radiation so far. So does melanin shield from alpha, beta, and gamma rays? As we've gone over, at this point, we know that the answer is absolutely yes, scientifically yes. But let's read on and get some more of these radiation and energy absorbing abilities of eumelanin. Yes, melanin does shield against some ionizing radiation like gamma and X-rays, and even high energy particles by absorbing their energy and converting it. So last but not least, in summary, how does melanin protect from radiation? Melanin protects from radiation by acting as a natural shield, absorbing harmful UV rays, UVA, UVC, and UVC, and converting their energy into less harmful heat, preventing deep penetration and DNA damage in skin cells. So melanin is, simply put, a shield to all forms of energy, including radioactive energy, but it's not only a shield because it absorbs it and then converts it into energy. And something else that I learned recently, this took place in around the 1950s and 60s, that when hospitals became integrated, the white doctors would x-ray black patients with what they believed to be unsafe levels of radiation. They would use higher radiation to x-ray black patients because they believed that that radiation was harming them, because they knew how radiation affected them as a non-melanated person or as a Caucasian person. So when they would get black patients in for an x-ray, they would dial up the radiation because they thought that radiation would harm the black patients in the same way it would harm them. Little did they know, these black patients were completely unaffected by that and were unharmed. Yes, it is a documented fact that in the 1960s and earlier, black patients were routinely exposed to higher doses of radiation for standard x-rays due to the erroneous and racist beliefs about their bodies. Separately, there were also specific unethical Cold War era radiation experiments conducted on poor, predominantly black cancer patients without informed consent. So they've been experimenting to see how black folks, or so-called black people, eumelated individuals, react to radiation for a long time. For decades, they've been experimenting on us without our knowledge to see how we react to radiation as opposed to how they react to radiation. So like I said, in the 1950s and 60s, they would expose black patients to higher, what they believed to be dangerous amounts of radiation because they thought it would harm us, and it did not. Because as we've gone over, how melanin converts and absorbs and dissipates all forms of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic radiation, and all forms of radiation in general. We've gone over alpha rays, beta rays, gamma rays, and how all of those different types of radiation are absorbed, converted, and dissipated by eumelanin. So this was all part of experimentation to see how black individuals reacted to radiation exposure, because they knew how radiation affected them. Don't forget, the radium girls were all Caucasian. So they thought by dialing up the radiation, it would harm the black patients the same way it harmed the radium girls. But it didn't. Because as we've gone over, we know what melanin does and how it shields from radiation all forms of radioactive or electromagnetic energy. And as we read separately, there were also specific unethical Cold War era radiation experiments. Radiation experiments conducted on poor, predominantly black cancer patients without informed consent. So they were testing to see how black people would react to radiation. There's a reason. Why do you think they were using radiation to experiment on black people? They want to see how the melanin worked, how far they could push it, how it protects us, how it shields, how it dissipates and absorbs and converts all forms of electromagnetic energy. So apart from them trying to use higher doses of radiation to kill the black patients, when in reality it had no effect, they just thought it would because they know how radiation affects them. There also were Cold War era radiation experiments, deliberate experiments using radiation conducted on black people. They know that radiation doesn't affect us the way that it affects them. So thank you all so much for watching. This was a really fun video to make and throw together. It's amazing, all of the different scientific capabilities and the scientific properties that are found within eumelanin. And it's insane to me how these people these so-called elites, these powers that be, have known this about us for so many decades. They watch us, they study us, and they've been doing this for decades, like I said. Melanin is not just a pigment that makes your skin, hair, and eyes brown. It is a super component, a super compound that has the ability to absorb and convert all forms of energy. And even as we were reading about how melanin reacts to gamma rays, we went over again, or we saw again, that eumelanin has electronic capabilities, or electricity conducting or producing capabilities. This is why radium or radiation exposure affected the radium girls the way that it did, and it affected that woman, the elderly black woman in that video I showed, the way it affected her. This is why radium and radium exposure kills and disintegrates non-melanated individuals, specifically in this case, like the Caucasian radium girls, the way it dissolved them and disintegrated them from the inside out. But it does not affect so-called black people with eumelanin to absorb and dissipate and convert that radioactive energy. We saw a first-hand account. The older black woman that I showed in that video speaking about using radium. She's still alive. She's 90 plus years old. She's got all her bones. She's got her jaw still. And we read about how in the 1950s and 60s, they would use higher doses of radiation in an attempt to harm the black patients, but it had no effect because they're not like us. During the Cold War, they would use radium to experiment on black cancer patients. Why didn't they experiment on the Latino, Hispanic cancer patients or the Asian cancer patients? Because it's always been about figuring out how melanin works. And now you, as someone with eumelanin, know how melanin works. So thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more truth-based content like this, and I will catch you in the next video.
You mean to tell me that I'm an alien species that have technology, that travel the stars, that have billions and billions of knowledge, and I'm gonna come to a planet and the first thing goes lower human beings, because I'm more advanced than them, the first thing that they're gonna see is a recessive trait, blonde hair and pale skin, and you call yourself advanced? Come on! Did that shit make sense to you? But this is what we've been supposed to do, calling them crap nonsense, because anything with science should tell you a pale skin cannot travel gamma radiation systems. Let me say it again. Anything can tell you if someone, the natural sun, they cannot take a natural sun, let alone travel. We talking about interdimensional travel. That means insane level of gamma radiation. That means you are completely being absorbed with gamma radiation, worse than the sun. How you think you be able to travel without melanin? Right now, we can't even send a little rocket in space. When I mean space, it's not really space, it's Earth orbit. We can't even send no rocket without not having melanin coating all over, especially in the bottom part of the space shuttle. In the bottom part of the rocket is coated with melanin so they can just send them right down in Earth orbit. Do you get it? So even with technology, you need melanin for that tech to work. Even our computers is coated with melanin in order to absorb the heat for it to work. Let alone an alien gonna travel millions and billions of miles away so they can come to our world so we can see they're walking around with blonde hair, blue eyes, and pale skin. Make this shit make sense, y'all. Are you serious? Are you serious? But you're gonna find Billy Carson entertain this because, you know, everything for a buck. We have nothing but people that's been lying